Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. There's something about Halloween that invites us to look at the shadows, the costumes, the masks, the things that scare us, and even the parts of ourselves that we would rather keep hidden. What if those very shadows are holding the keys to our growth? What if the monsters that we run from are actually teachers in disguise? Today's episode is going to be part story time, personal lessons that I've lived through, and part wisdom, the kind that you carry into your own journey, because just like Halloween reminds us, things aren't always what they seem on the surface. And sometimes the scariest things are actually opportunities to reclaim our power. Halloween is not just about costumes and candy, is what I'm saying. It's about masks, shadows, and the monsters we avoid. And my big message today is, what if these monsters are messengers? I want to start by sharing a little story about a time when I wore a mask. And of course, this is metaphorically a season of my life where I was hiding a part of myself. And sometimes we're wearing masks and we don't even realize that we're wearing a mask. We've had it on for so long. And that has definitely been the case for me. So my mask, we're gonna go back to, this is my 20s and mid 20s even. And the mask I was wearing was the mask of Botox, because I started at a really young age of getting my entire face like frozen, like where it really didn't move. I had no expression. And I'm not sure I could pinpoint exactly one thing that, it's not, in my case, there's not one standout thing that led me to make those lifestyle choices at that young of an age. It was the influence of all the stuff. I regularly read those tabloid magazines where people are constantly getting shamed, body shamed, just all the different kinds of shamed. And I would get these every week. And I was really exposing myself and creating for myself that sort of narrative and environment where it was very superficial. It was very projections of people's own insecurities onto other people. And I internalized all that, and also was at a time in my life when I was really stressed and really depressed and anxious and all of the things. And of course, you wear all that, you hold all of that in your face. I would say at the time I was very expressive. That was something I always said. I'm really expressive because I did not have a poker face. Every little thing, it was like, you saw it in my face. And so the Botox was part insecurity and no self-worth, no self-love, this need to part of it was that, and all of the ideas and everything I was being fed through media, through just all of the different things. And then there was this element of the other way it was a mask was it could mask what I was really thinking, feeling, what at the time if I thought it, if I felt it, it was like showing on my face. What I've seen, there was a trend on maybe in social media, probably in 2024, 2025, I don't know. It was like a couple, and they would say, my wife forgets that her face has closed captions or something like that. And it was these people posting videos where they were sitting side by side, and then the spouse, their face like said it all, right? And they would kind of nudge them like, oh yeah, and you would come back. That was me. Everything was in my face. And I was very opinionated, and that was in my face too. So yeah, if I just froze my face, if I injected so much of that Botox in my face where it wouldn't even move, then you couldn't tell what kind of a face I was making or any kind of expression I was making. And at the time, that's what I wanted. Now, it was a mask because I was masking how I really felt about myself and how I really felt, literally how I really felt, like what my emotions were, because they weren't showing on my face anymore. My face at the time, I was getting a lot, like a dosage where your face didn't really move. And with the intentional journey of self, and when I started taking all those masks off, that was one of the masks that I took off, to the point where I went a couple years without getting anything at all. It was a huge difference. And there were all different kinds of stages in between. I just wanted you to hear that story. Now, avoiding shadows keeps you stuck, and facing them sets you free. That story I shared, that was one of my shadows. That was some aspect of myself that I needed to stop avoiding so that I could liberate myself and be free from this feeling that I had to have all of this Botox. And again, it was that whole journey of reducing it, and then going a couple years saying I'm not getting anything at all, and then experimenting and saying, what if I just try a little? What if I do it differently? What I had to decide, and then transitioning to plant-based, there was that added a whole other integrity type factor into it that I had to sort through, right? And all of the things. So I think this is a relevant topic in this conversation because it is about mask, and this was something that for me, I'm speaking from my personal experience. I used to get the fillers. I don't have fillers or anything anymore, but that is something I did. My journey now is one of overall holistic health and wellness, and using practices like face yoga, facial massage, gua sha, lymphatic drainage techniques, fascia health things, regular visits with the esthetician, monthly facials, things like this. Like I'm now, and other, you might have seen a recent thing I did on my face, a purging journey. What I'm saying is this: I'm not judging a past version of myself when I was wearing those masks or trying to figure out who I was or what I wanted or how I wanted to show up in this world, any more than I'm judging anyone else who's on their personal journey. This is just a way that I know I used to wear a mask. And this is still a journey I'm on, this whole holistic lifestyle, wellness, beauty, glow, embodiment journey. This is a part of it for me. So that's why I want to talk about it. And that's why I wanted to mention that avoiding these shadows keeps you stuck, and facing them sets you free. When I was willing to recognize this about myself and the way that I was using the Botox and how I felt like as soon as it was, and I was going like every 3 months or something wild like that, like without missing, like as soon as my face started to move again, it was like, oh nope, got to go back, got to freeze it. I can't move. And you really kind of get in your head about stuff like that. And you got to be willing to shine the light of your consciousness on your shadow aspects. And you may own this. This may not be a shadow aspect. For me, it was. It was something that I didn't even realize was... It was like I didn't even see. I didn't even see what I was doing to myself. I didn't even see how much the way I was doing it. It was trying to hide something, trying to put a mask over something, trying to deny something, and not embracing what was truly there, what was underneath, what could radiate from within all along, given the proper attention and care and nurturing. Instead, I was just burning myself out doing all these things and then wanting to put a Band-Aid and fix it and make it, appear okay. Today, I'm going to show you how what you're most afraid to face could be the exact thing that makes you magnetic, whole, and powerful. I want you to learn how to work with your shadows instead of running from them. Maybe this is something that you're already doing. Maybe this is something that have been doing for a really, really, really long time. Maybe this is something that you're interested in, you're curious about. Maybe this is something you're not ready for. Okay. This Halloween, this week, feels like a good time to talk about the shadows, though. So instead of staying haunted by patterns, you can learn to alchemize them into growth. And when I said that, I want to keep going with that, but I do want to shout out, throwback to a recent episode on patterns. I don't remember exactly which one, but it's patterns is in the title. It was maybe about 4 or 5 episodes-ish ago, and it's really powerful. Tune into that one. I'll put it in show notes. But let's keep going with this. So how we can turn pain into possibility, the idea of alchemy is definitely one that's been main overarching theme of my intentional journey of self. And I love the idea here, this idea of turning pain into possibility, and this idea of instead of you staying haunted by your patterns, you will alchemize them into growth. You're going to grow through what you're going through, and you're going to transmute, and you're going to realize that every single thing that you have been going through is preparing you for exactly what you've asked for. And it's time for you to allow it, to receive it, to let go of those things that are, your hands are full and your mind is full and your heart is full. That's a good thing. You want to let go of some of this stuff, though, to make room, because there is something that is knocking at the door, waiting to get in. And when you quit focusing on all this chaos, because right now there is chaos, there has been some astrologically, some wild things going on. And if you're feeling it, yeah, same. So all of this, like everything coming to a head, everything you're feeling, all this pressure from outside sources, it's like simultaneously you've got this upward trajectory in your life. Everything is like ping, 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 ping. It's like you're a magnet attracting all of this amazing opportunity, abundance, all of the things. And then at the same time, there is this dumpster fire happening that's like, and they're both happening simultaneously. And the one that you give your energy and attention to is the one that grows and multiplies. And so right now, the thing is yes, you are in the midst of something huge, transformational, massive, monumental, epic. And there is something that is so dark, that is so heavy, that is so like just really grasping for your attention and your energy. It's like, almost like it's bait. Are you going to take the bait? And so you right now have the choice of what is going to get your energy and attention. And energy flows where attention goes. So, and what you focus on grows and multiplies. So right now, yes, both things are happening. This doesn't mean bypass and pretend one doesn't exist. Use this situation as a mirror to show you what's triggering you right now. Your triggers are your teachers. What are the things that you can use this situation when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. Everything, it's like a polarity thing that's happening in your life. And so roll with it, breathe into it, know that things are always working out for you. Things are happening behind the scenes that you don't even know about. All of the cooperative components, as Abraham Hicks would say, are all aligning. Everything, it's already done. The more you relax, the more you receive. Okay? Now, when you learn to meet your shadows with love instead of fear, you stop living on autopilot and you start living in alignment. That is the heart of the work we do in Self-Love Uni, which I'm not going to get too much into now, but I do want to say it's foundational. It's foundational. Your shadows are not something that make you weak. They're not something that make you bad. They're not something that make you undesirable. They're not something that make you unlovable. They're not something that make you unworthy. Your shadows are not something that you have to fix. Your shadows, those dark parts of yourself, those shadow aspects of yourself, are asking you to become consciously aware that they are a part of you, without denying them, without repressing them, without disowning them. Your shadows just want you to see them, to recognize them, to acknowledge them, to accept them, to embrace them, to integrate them into your life. When you do this, they become less scary. You fear them because you have made them in your mind to be something that is bad, that nobody's going to love you if they know this about you. Or you can't show this part of yourself because your whole life you heard people, for instance, your whole life you heard people speak so negatively and harshly about this thing that if it exists in you, then people are going to hate you. They're not going to like you. They're not going to accept you. You won't belong. You've internalized this unconsciously it's not even in your conscious awareness. But that's why it is a shadow aspect. Not that it exists within you and it doesn't make you bad. That's all I'm saying. And when you approach your shadows with love and recognize this is part of me, I am of the light and the dark. And you're going to hug your shadow and you're going to be like, okay, how can we work together? You working against me has not really been working out too well. So how can we work together? And how can I integrate you into my life? And this is where the magic happens, okay? I want to share a personal shadow moment, okay? Like this would be a time that I thought something was ruining me, but it became the lesson that expanded me. So I haven't thought of this ahead of time. I just know that's where I want to go. Let me see. Okay. I thought of something that was a shadow moment. In the moment, in the time, I was in a marriage. I was in the marriage I was in, and my husband at the time went outside of the marriage. And I remember at the time when that happened, feeling so hurt, so betrayed, so foolish, so outraged, so angry, so all of the things. And where I was at the time, my theme of consciousness at the time was I wanted to call everybody I knew, and I wanted to tell him how he had wronged me, and I wanted to make sure that they heard my story and that they knew that that he had done this to me. That was the mindset I had at the time. Keep in mind, I wasn't doing any of the shadow work. I didn't even know what shadow work was. I never heard of a shadow or any of that. So, which no shame in that. That's not just something that we're like brought up hearing about, learning about, being taught about. So it wasn't like there's any shame that I didn't know about this work yet. I'm just making sure that you understand where in my journey I was at the time. So I lacked self-awareness and had not started the intentional journey of self. So I was still with the depression, the anxiety, all the meds, all the things. Was not meditating, self-reflecting, journaling, or any of that. So I felt angry. The irony in all this, well, there's two things. One was that things already the relationship wasn't healthy and thriving. And in hindsight, it should not have come as some sort of surprise because at the time, and I've shared this before, what he would say is work was my high. I was a workaholic. I worked and worked and worked and worked. I worked a lot. And because it wasn't a healthy, thriving relationship, it was like he would just kind of poke his head in and say, hey, I'm going to my friend's house, or wherever he would say he was going. And I would just kind of look up and be like, okay, bye. Because I wasn't asking questions, because if he stayed there, he wanted my attention and I wanted my attention to go to my work. And so it felt easier to just be like, okay, see ya, bye, leave, right? Because then I had the place all to myself and I could do what I wanted to do and everything. So that was the situation. Then I acted surprised, or felt surprised, when this happened, knowing that a couple nights a week or however many times he's like, I'm leaving, I'm going wherever, okay, bye. Never checking on him, never asking, never going to see, never going with him, right? We just lived two separate lives anyway. So there's that. Then me wanting to call all the people and get everyone else involved and do all of the things, and felt kind of crazy because, of course, there was some denial at first that it was happening, even though I knew. And then there was this whole thing where you start checking yourself, feeling like you got to prove yourself and become some sort of investigator. And it was wild, right? But that was the season I was in. And at the time, and I've shared this story before, you can go in episodes in the past, adult episodes. There's only 2 of those, by the way. But there was a separation, and then ultimately we got back together for 2 more years before the divorce. But at the time when that first happened, I said, nope, that's it. We're going to split up. We're not going to be married anymore. All of that stuff. In that moment, when all of this was happening, in the height of it, when it was just, there was still the quote, truth hadn't come out yet, all of whatever, there was still all of this stuff happening. I felt like it was ruining me. My life was ruined, that this was just the worst thing that could have happened to me. And we had 2 young children. So clearly, guys, that didn't ruin me. Spoiler alert, it didn't ruin me. And it wasn't the worst thing that happened to me either. And I'm better than ever. So what I'm saying is this: it became a lesson that expanded me in so many ways. Because from that point, once we decided to try again, that's when, not my official, the one I talk about, my intentional journey of self, but that's when it started. Because at that point is when I started my personal development journey. That's when I started, and I've shared this before, I started reading some books, listening to some people, some speakers, some motivational people, going down some paths, exploring some paths with different types of speakers, which he was supportive of. He would buy me the discs or buy me the books or whatever of the people I liked. It was just not something we did together. Okay. So then we didn't go down that path together, but that 100% expanded me. It's when I realized this is not what I want and I have to change. And so it wasn't about trying to change him. It was about me realizing I've got to change. And the whole idea of us deciding to stay together was, okay, we're going to do things different. We're going to change, because what we were doing before didn't work, because look how it ended, or how what happened. You know, one of us went outside of the marriage and we ended separating. And so we have these children. If we want to do this right by the kids, then we got to make some changes. And so that was kind of the agreement of, we're coming back into this and we're going to do things differently. And I did start doing things differently. I started consuming new materials, and I started reading new books and listening to new things and learning new things. And again, all of the personal development. And once you start doing that work, it magnifies when people move together and do work together, that energy of that, it's palpable, it's momentum, right? And it builds. And everyone, I think of the environment I'm in now, where the girls and I've been the last 10 years on the same property with my mom and dad. And so when everyone is moving in this direction together of personal growth, and everyone's making improvements in their life and in their mindset and in their health and in their attitude and in their business or whatever, and it's just everyone's kind of building each other up, and it's the momentum, and it feels really good. And if you're in an environment where that's not the case, and you're doing all this stuff, and so you feel that, and all of those lived experiences have shaped me into, and then ultimately that jump-started the intentional journey of self once I left. And then all of that has led to where I am today. Guys, that was a shadow moment. That was a dark time. That was rough. And I didn't have the tools I have now. I love that girl. She did the best she could. But there was drama. There was drama. She was bringing the drama. But of course I was bringing the drama, because that's what I was consuming, guys, at the time. I told you I was reading all the magazines and just watching all the shows, because I used to work all the time. I'd paint, but I'd constantly have streaming on in the background. And I'd be watching all of those streaming shows. Like, there's no telling how many series I watched back in the day. Again, I'm not knocking watching a series. What I'm saying is just the ones I was choosing and the way I was watching them, it was just drama. It was so second nature to me to drama, It really was. So, 95% roundabout of your thoughts and behaviors are subconscious. In other words, the subconscious mind runs the show. Like 85 to 95% of everything you do, say, think comes from the subconscious mind. Carl Jung, the psychologist, he coined the term shadow. I've talked about this. We have a whole episode on shadow work. I think there's 2 actually. But he coined the shadow as the unconscious parts of self that we deny. Okay? That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. And we deny, we disown, we do it unconsciously. We don't even realize that we're doing this. I'm hoping with sharing these stories and providing some insight that you will have the courage to get that flashlight and shine the light of your consciousness on some of your shadows as well. And sometimes it takes showing up with an open mind, an open heart, and listening to something and being tuned into the frequency where it resonates. And I just posted the other day, the eyes see only what the mind is prepared to comprehend. You could hear something and nothing, and then you could hear it a week later, and you're in a different place and something clicks and you hear it and it's like new. It's like hearing it for the first time. And you're like, wait a second. Yes, I get it. I see. I can see that now. I can see clearly now. That song was playing on my way over here. I remember a couple years ago, my sister, they build these amazing haunted houses, her and my brother-in-law, and they're like out of this world, over the top, amazing haunted houses. Huge, like with wooden walls. These are actually constructed outside. They're not like going through the house. So haunted houses always freak me out. Again, very dysregulated nervous system. Before I even knew what a dysregulated nervous system was, I hated to be scared, for people to jump out at me. Nothing about that was ever fun for me. Haunted houses, I was like, hard pass for me. Don't invite me to the haunted house. Well, they're loud. They're full of jump scares. Again, my heart was racing the whole time. It was just not something I ever enjoyed. Okay. Well, so fast forward, my sister, her husband, they build these amazing haunted houses. Now, let me put this into perspective really quickly. The Baton Rouge Halloween Parade 1031 Consortium, it's an amazing organization. Be sure to check them out. My sister and her husband have been the crew that leads the parade for I don't even know how many years, but the parade's been going on for 10 years. They've done it for a lot of years. And they have a theme of the parade every year, and they always deck out for the front float. They will build these structures, like they'll get the golf cart or the side-by-side. One year it was like a UFO. They made it looked like a huge floating UFO with the LED lights under and everything. I will have to make a collection of photos of all of their floats and post them in a carousel to show y'all, because it's amazing. And 2 years ago, they celebrated their 10-year vow renewal, and they did it live before the parade. Kelly, who's one of the founders of the parade, is an ordained to do a ceremony. So she actually performed a real ceremony, and it was a zombie wedding. Head to toe, full out zombie, the whole bridal party. It was fantastic. I will share that link too, because it is worth checking out. So they love Halloween is what I'm saying. Guys, so a couple years ago, they wanted us to be in the haunted house to actually take a turn. I wasn't planning on doing it. My daughter was doing it, but she was hot in her costume and everything, and she needed a break. So they're like, can you go fill in her spot? And the thing is now I would see this while they were setting it up. So I got to see it during the day. And when the lights were on and the sun was out, right? And you could see the truth, okay? The monsters are just actors in masks, and the cobwebs are plastic, right? And the screams are sound effects coming from a little machine, all of the different things. But when you're in it, when you walk through it, and they've got all of these machines and these sounds and people jumping out, because I did go through it, and y'all, it's scary. That is exactly what shadow work is. Our shadows feel terrifying because we're meeting them in the dark. But when you shine the light of awareness, you see that they're not here to destroy you. They're just parts of you that are playing roles. And once you see that, the fear fades and the lesson becomes clear. And I'm going to tell you something about that. So when I filled in for my daughter, I was in this little house structure on the property. They had a little structure that exists. And so the haunted house is built all around it. So me and my sister were inside of this structure, and there were windows, and we had the windows open. And so when people would come through, our job was, to jump out at them there. But we could see through other windows, them coming around other parts of the haunted house. All of this to say, that was my first time being an actor in a haunted house. And oh my gosh, all of the different expressions, the way that people express their fear. Some people laugh, some people scream, some people jump, some people are holding on to somebody for dear life behind them like a shield. There's just so many different ways. And when you're on the other side and you're witnessing it, and these people are coming through for the first time, but where the actors' stations are, and so when the screams are coming, and when you hear them, what part they got to, right? It gives you a different perspective. That's all I'm saying, y'all. It's just different, and it really did hit home for me as far as this with shadow work of like, okay, this is what it's like. This is what it's like on the other side of it. And again, once you see that, the fear fades. It's like, okay, this is the lesson. Again, I can see clearly now. Again, I want to share another story, but this time I want to share a client story about where they were facing shadow patterns that shifted their life or business. Because I think it's important not only to share my own personal experiences, but because one of the things I alluded to earlier was self-love uni, let's talk about a client's story as well. Initially, many of us struggle with people pleasing because of our upbringing and everything else. This is something that is a shadow that we struggle with. We don't even realize how much self-abandoning is happening in the name of wanting other people to be happy and to like us. And the idea of someone not liking us, or of us being the villain in someone else's story, makes us feel really, 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 really uncomfortable. And we have this just deep longing to want to please. And through our work together and boundary work, shadow work, recognizing the amount of self-abandoning that truly was happening when the people pleasing was a dominant part of their personality, and the way that they identified themselves, like their self-image, was one that was, I'm liked. I'm going to be liked by everybody. That's who I am. And through this work and the shadow work, it's peeling back the layers, kind of like peeling back the layers of an onion or something like that. And through the integration, you realize that, for one, when you set a boundary, the only people who are bothered by, annoyed by, upset by you setting that boundary are people who are benefiting from you not having it. And so these concepts, you may understand them when you hear them, but knowledge and understanding is not the same as integration and embodiment. I have seen over and over people who really, they're like, I understand, I get it, I understand. Yet they're not embodying it. Yet they're not integrating it. And they don't understand why it's not working for them. I get it. I've listened to the podcast. I've read the books. I've watched the YouTubes. I've done all the things. I understand. Understanding is not the same as integrating. So when we work together in Self-Love Uni or any of the one-on-one coaching containers, those are a little more exclusive. You learn through practice and intention and guidance and repetition. And it's almost like you give yourself the permission slip, is kind of what it really is once you invest in yourself in that way and you realize that, okay, I'm ready to shine the light on my consciousness on whatever is there so that I can quit being prisoner to these shadows, and instead I can liberate myself, free myself from all of this that feels so dark and scary, like the haunted house, right? I want to turn the lights on. We have all seen people who are haunted by their past because they won't face it. That doesn't have to be your story, though. That's all I'm saying. Okay. If I were to give you 3 to 4 ways that you could start befriending your shadow. A note to self. I have this fun idea for a video that I want to make for you guys that I'm excited about. I'm excited about creating it, and then I'm excited to see how you feel about it, how it lands. It's about shadows. That's why I mentioned it there. So 3 to 4 clear ways for you to start befriending your shadow. Okay, I want you to spot the mask first. You have to spot the mask. You have to notice where you are performing or pretending. So you can ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I showed up as my real self here, in this situation, in this scenario, in front of this person, whatever? What am I afraid would happen if I showed up as the real me right here, right now? My real self. So that's how you can notice where you're performing or pretending. That's how you spot the mask. I want you to imagine showing up at a Halloween party in a mask. And at first it feels fun because you can play a role, you can act differently, maybe even hide what you don't want others to see, right? But after a while, the mask gets hot, it gets heavy, it's scratchy, it's uncomfortable, you can't breathe easily, and you can't connect as deeply. Maybe you can't speak as clearly. That's what happens when we wear masks in our everyday lives. At some point, the mask becomes the thing that is holding us back from true connection, from real intimacy, from being seen. Taking it off feels vulnerable and even scary. Yes, I know. But it is also the moment that you finally feel free and light and able to connect authentically. Moral of the story: take off the masks. Whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe you have 100. Take off the masks. Number 2, name the monster. Write down what triggers you the most. Triggers reveal shadows. Your triggers are your teachers. So instead of judging them, ask, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to teach me? Because if you feel really irritated, really annoyed, really aggravated every time this person does this, okay, that is pointing to some unhealed, unaddressed, that some aspect of yourself that has not been integrated, that has not been seen, witnessed yet. It still needs your attention. So that's a good place to start. I got a whole episode, Your Triggers Are Your Teachers. It is really good, y'all. Really good. 3, flip the fear. That's a good one. So always flip the fear. Find the gift in the shadow. Here is an example of what I mean. Anger means a boundary was not met. Jealousy means desire was unclaimed. Insecurity, growth edge. That's what it's telling you. That's your growth edge. Okay? If you can learn to flip the fear to, again, you're going to identify it, and then what is this saying? What is this teaching me? I said I would give you 3 to 4. I'm going to give you a 4th one. And it's going to be, do all of this, practice all of this with compassion. Remind yourself that your shadows are not here to punish you. They're here to integrate. What if the monster is just part of you that's waiting to come home, and it wants to be welcomed with wide open arms and grace and gratitude. Thank you, Shadow, for showing me this dark side of myself, because again, you are of the light and the dark. You are whole. You are human. That's part of what makes you who you are. If this episode resonated, imagine what it would feel like to go deeper. Not just listening, but actually practicing with guidance and support. That is what we do inside of Self-Love Uni. It's not about fixing yourself. You are not a broken sink. We don't need to fix you. It is about unmasking yourself. We use the shadows as stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. And that's when life starts to feel lighter and freer and more aligned. This is your invitation to join Self-Love Uni or my one-on-one coaching if it's available when you go to do this, with warmth and clarity. I'm going to put the links in the show notes. Do not wait another season hiding behind the mask. Step into the light. Your real life is waiting. Your real life, the one underneath the masks. Okay? I love you. Happy Halloween. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditthenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.